Good evening and welcome to the Daily News Roundup. I am Abigail Smythe. Among the stories in this evening's newscast, the body of man discovered in Linstead identified. Gunmen kill one and injure another in Westmoreland. Man shot and killed at intersection in Kingston in brazen afternoon attack. 300 new members to be added to the JCF, and the parliamentary opposition reaffirms its position that states of public emergency is not in keeping with the Constitution. In business, the GDP for the finance and services industry estimated to have grown in July to September. In the region, a director of Haitian National Police Academy shot and killed. Further overseas, World Health Organization renames Monkeypox Mpox. And in sports, World Cup games continue with several crowd favorite victories. Now for the news in detail. 3 people remain hospitalized after a 2-vehicle collision on Kingston Spring Road Sunday night. It is reported that about 9:30, the driver of a Nissan 80 wagon allegedly ran a red light at the intersection of Manor Center on Kingston Spring Road. This caused a Toyota Hiace, which was traveling up Kingston Spring Road, to collide with the Nissan, which ended up on a median. The occupants of the 80 wagon and Hiace were rushed to hospital immediately. The accident left both vehicles badly damaged. The body of a man that was discovered on Charlemont Farm Road in Linstead, St. Catherine, Sunday morning has been identified. He is 39-year-old Damien Bancroft of Waterloo District in the parish. Reports are that about 8 a.m., residents were traveling along the roadway when they stumbled upon Bancroft's body. The police were summoned, and on their arrival, Bancroft was seen lying face down with wounds to his upper body. His throat was reportedly slashed. The scene was processed and the body removed to the morgue pending post-mortem. Investigations are ongoing. Gunmen struck in Westmoreland Sunday morning, leaving 1 man dead and another hospitalized. The deceased has been identified as 22-year-old Jermaine Vaz, a resident of White House, Westmoreland. Reports are that about 2 a.m., Vaz and his friend were traveling along the Aunchindown Main Road on a blue Suzuki Access motorcycle when, upon reaching the vicinity of Sandal's South Coast Hotel, a white motor car drove up. The occupants of the vehicle opened fire at the men. The motorcycle crashed in nearby bushes. It was discovered that Mr. Vaz had sustained multiple bullet wounds. The other victim suffered lacerations from the fall off the bike. They were taken to hospital where Mr. Vaz was pronounced dead and the other man admitted. No motive has been established for the attack. And a man was killed when gunmen sprayed his car with bullets at the intersection of Spanish Town Road and Weymouth Drive, Kingston 11, Sunday afternoon. The deceased has been identified as 38-year-old Kennedy Adamson, otherwise called Gaza, an upholster from Water Street in Kingston. It was reported that about 3:15 p.m., Adamson was traveling in his gray 1997 Toyota Corolla motorcar along the roadway when, upon reaching the traffic lights at the intersection, he was attacked by 2 men on a red and black motorcycle. Police say the men opened gunfire at Adamson, hitting him multiple times in the head and upper parts of his body. The injured man managed to drive away from his attackers, but his car stopped about 300 yards away after bumping into several drums along the side of the road. The police were summoned, and on their arrival, they found Adamson slumped around the steering wheel of his car. He was taken to the Kingston Public Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Police say 7 9mm spent casings were found on the scene, and the rear back glass of the car was damaged by bullets. No motive has been established for the attack. The Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, is probing a shooting incident involving a policeman in Clarendon on Saturday. The Constabulary Communications Unit says it is reported that the policeman was at a party in the Frankfield area when an altercation developed between himself and a patron. The policeman reportedly discharged rounds from his licensed firearm and wounded a man. It was subsequently discovered that another man was also wounded. Both were taken to hospital where they were pronounced dead. Other sources say the deceased have been identified as cousins Jerome Smith and Clayton Pink, both of James Hill in Frankfield, Clarendon. It is alleged that Mr. Pink flung a bottle which hit the constable in the face. The policeman then reportedly pulled his firearm and discharged rounds which hit Mr. Pink. Jerome Smith, who was in the vicinity, was also shot. In a bid to bolster efforts in the fight against crime, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says 300 new members are to be added to the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, in a few days. He says the government has been increasing its human resources within the JCF, noting that 300 officers graduated a few months ago, and in a couple days, an additional 300 will graduate. Mr. Holness says by the end of the year, 1,200 officers will be added to the force, and they will help with ensuring the safety of Jamaicans during the Christmas season. He also stresses the need for an increase in the number of persons in the police force, especially to handle cases of murder. And in defending police welfare, Chairman of the Police Federation, Corporal Rowan James, minced no words in chastising the government. Corporal James notes that the Federation continues to beg the government for resources and proper remuneration for officers. He says there continues to be a piecemeal approach to national security. He adds that the Federation will not be muzzled or intimidated. Corporal James argues that the government is well aware that criminals have ramped up their artilleries, yet basic amenities are lacking for members of the security force. He says the government must be held accountable, pointing to what he calls several broken promises by the government. A carpenter of Retreat in Westmoreland has been charged with murder after allegedly striking his common-law wife with a hammer during a domestic dispute over her attendance at a party. 41-year-old Marvin Authors, otherwise called Babu, was charged on Saturday following a post-mortem report which revealed that the woman, 35-year-old craft vendor Venicia Hilton, late of Sheffield and Retreat, died from multiple blunt force trauma to her chest. Reports from the police are that Hilton and Authors were at their Top Hill district home with Hilton's two children when they had an argument over her attending a party. During the dispute, it is alleged that Authors used the hammer to hit Hilton in the upper body, which resulted in her falling to the ground and becoming unresponsive. Authors subsequently went to the Negril police station where he filed a report about the incident. He was subsequently arrested on reasonable suspicion of murder. The police later visited the scene, and on their arrival, Hilton was seen inside a bedroom in the house, lying face down on the floor in a pool of blood with what appeared to be marks of violence on her back. She was transported to the Savannah Lamar Public General Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. And a 15-year-old boy of Boscobel St. Mary has been charged with wounding with intent following an incident in the Ocharias bus park in St. Anne on Monday, November 21. Reports from the Ocharias police are that about 4 p.m. the complainant was at the park when he was attacked by the 15-year-old and two other boys who stabbed him in the face. He was assisted to hospital where he was admitted in stable condition. An investigation was launched and one of the boys was subsequently charged. His court date is being finalized. The parliamentary opposition is once again reaffirming its position that the government's use of states of public emergency, SOEs, is not in keeping with the Constitution. Opposition leader Mark Golding says the SOEs stand to infringe and undermine the basic right of freedom and again describes the SOEs as a band-aid approach. The opposition has rejected a 46-day extension of the measures currently in force across the island. Golding says the motoring public will no longer endure long lines of traffic at checkpoints and adds that members of the entertainment sector will be able to benefit from the festivities of the Christmas period without curfews. Golding points out that the security forces have also grown wary of the measures. He notes that Jamaica has a chronic violent crime situation and the opposition is willing to work with the government to find sustainable solutions. In the meantime, the opposition leader is calling for the implementation of pre-charge detention as a potential tool to treat with known violence producers across the country. Pre-charge detention is a shorthand term for the period that a person can be detained by the police between being arrested and being either charged with a criminal offense or released. He says once the ex parte order is granted, it will allow for 7 days of initial detention with the option for further 14-day extensions, which can go up to 49 days. Golding notes that the affidavit evidence supporting the detention order will not be publicly available in the court file, but would be made available in redacted form to the detainee's attorney. Mr. Golding says this would be a proportionate response to protect the country's free and democratic society from the worsening crime problem. He also notes that the legislation should have a sunset clause so that it ends after a period of 2 years but can be extended if it's delivering results. And in the meantime, the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, has warned that the government may place areas under states of emergency, SOE, again if there is heightened threat to public safety. The government imposed SOEs in 7 parishes across the island on November 15 for a period of 14 days. However, the opposition did not vote in support of an extension of the measure in the Senate on Friday, leaving the government disappointed. The Prime Minister says it is not off the table, but it will be considered very carefully if circumstances give rise to it. He adds that if resources are stretched, if there is a spike buffering, if actions are taken or threatened to be taken that will substantially create a threat to public order and lives, then his government will act. The current SOEs will come to an end at midnight Monday, November 28. The 50 new garbage trucks recently acquired by the government are to be deployed this week. The trucks represent half of the number the government is procuring to boost the fleet of the National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA. Communities across the island have been complaining about a pileup of garbage which the NSWMA has blamed on not having enough trucks. Executive Director of the NSWMA, Audley Gordon, says the new units will make a huge difference. He acknowledges that the 50 new trucks will not be enough to solve the island-wide garbage collection problem, but is assuring the public that it will give a boost as they will be able to go through communities more efficiently and reduce the complaints. In business news, gross domestic product GDP for the finance and services industry is estimated to have grown in the July to September quarter. Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, Dr. Wayne Henry, says real value added for the finance and services industry was estimated to have grown 1%. He says the performance was influenced by increased profitability at deposit-taking institutions, driven by a rise in debt fees and commissions. This was supported by higher levels of employment and consumer confidence, which drove increased demand for financial services. In the region, the director of the Haitian National Police Academy, Commissioner Rigord Harrington, was shot and killed at the nation's police training facility Friday afternoon. Mr. Rigord was shot dead in the Paytonville neighborhood while his driver was kidnapped during the process. The Haitian National Police have opened an investigation into the assassination. The assassination was confirmed by the police, who stated that the commissioner was shot while entering the police academy in an official police vehicle. A video circulating on social media is alleged to show the former commissioner's body stretched out on the ground. The assassination is the latest in a series of escalating incidents in the French-speaking Caribbean nation following the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in January 2021. And on the international scene, the World Health Organization, WHO, has renamed monkeypox as Mpox. According to reports from ABC News, the WHO cited concerns that the original name of the decades-old animal disease could be construed as discriminatory and racist. The UN Health Agency says Mpox is its new preferred name for monkeypox, saying that both monkeypox and Mpox would be used for the next year while the old name is phased out. WHO says it was concerned by the racist and stigmatizing language that arose after monkeypox spread to more than 100 countries. The organization says numerous individuals and countries asked it to propose a way forward to change the name. In August, the WHO began consulting experts about renaming the disease shortly after the UN agency declared monkeypox's spread to be a global emergency. To date, there have been more than 80,000 cases identified in dozens of countries that had not previously reported the smallpox-related disease. Until May, monkeypox, a disease that is thought to originate in animals, was known to trigger large outbreaks beyond Central and West Africa. Outside of Africa, nearly all cases have been in gay, bisexual, or other men who have sex with other men. Scientists believe monkeypox triggered outbreaks in Western countries after spreading via sex at 2 raves in Belgium and Spain. Vaccination efforts in rich countries, along with targeted control interventions, have mostly brought the disease under control after it peaked in the summer. And in sports news, World Cup game results for Monday saw Brazil clipping Switzerland 1-0. Cameroon and Serbia finished their game 3-3, while Ghana staved off elimination with a 3-2 victory over South Korea. For Sunday's results, Costa Rica, who lost 7-0 to Spain on Wednesday and were expected to be the whipping boys of the group, defeated Japan 1-0. Morocco clipped Belgium 2-0. Croatia thrashed Canada 4-1, which saw the Canadians being eliminated, while former champions Germany dodged a bullet as they salvaged a point in a 1-1 draw against Spain. In cricket, Jamaican Rovman Powell produced a player of the match performance as the Northern Warriors recorded their first win in the Abu Dhabi T10 League on Sunday. They beat the Bangla Tigers by 6 wickets. And that's it for your news roundup for today. I'm Abigail Smythe. See you next time.